We're diving right into some pretty big news in the reality TV world. Garcelle Beauvais, familiar face on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Right.
For 5 seasons, she is leaving the show.
Wow.
And this kind of all came out after the season 14 finale aired.
Okay.
And the initial reactions or lack thereof from her co-stars are really telling.
Interesting.
So let's set the scene here.
Yeah.
So this is on Watch What Happens Live. And Andy Cohen always, he knows how to handle these moments.
Oh, yeah.
He has Bozoma Saint John,
Right.
who is new to the cast, and Erica Jane, who's been around for a while.
Oh,
And he straight up asks them, like, what are your thoughts on Garcelle leaving?
yeah.
And it's silence at first.
Oh, wow.
Just total silence.
That's interesting.
Like, you just like wait for someone to say something.
Right, right.
I mean, what do you think is going on in that moment?
I think when you see that delayed reaction, especially in a live setting like that, you got to think there's some carefully managed narratives happening.
Yeah.
Maybe some off-screen tension that they're not ready to talk about, And producers probably love that.
Oh, yeah.
They use that to build future storylines and all that.
Right.
But yeah, it's like even in those spontaneous moments, it feels like there's a lot of strategic communication going on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's you're at home watching it. It's like, ooh, what's gonna happen here?
Exactly.
And then finally, after Andy kind of prods them a bit,
Right.
you get this interesting exchange where Erica's like, Bozoma, you go first. And then Bozoma's like, no, Erica, you say something.
Oh, wow.
Like, neither of them want to be the first one to comment
Right.
on this huge cast change.
I see. I see.
And when Bozoma finally does speak,
Yeah.
you can hear the disappointment in her voice. She says, I really wish Garcelle had stayed another season to like work it out. And Andy jumps in and clarifies for the audience that she's referring to Garcelle walking off the reunion set.
Ah, so that's what she meant.
Yeah, so it's not just like, oh, I'm sad to see her go.
Right.
It's like, no, this is directly related to some drama that went down at the reunion.
Gotcha.
And she doesn't stop there.
Oh, really?
She also says, and I don't think it's a high note,
Oh.
referring to Garcelle's exit.
Interesting word choice.
Right, and it kind of makes you think, like,
Yeah.
did things end badly? Was this a really abrupt departure?
Yeah.
And thinking about how reality TV works,
Yeah.
like these exits, they become part of the story,
Right.
and they're going to shape what happens in future seasons.
For sure.
So what do you make of Bozoma's reaction overall?
Well, to me, it sounds like she wanted things to be resolved.
Yeah.
Maybe she felt like there was unfinished business within the group.
Right.
And Garcelle leaving kind of leaves that unresolved.
Yeah. And then Erica chimes in,
Okay, what did she say?
and she drops this little bombshell.
Okay.
She says she knew that Garcelle was going to quit
Oh, really?
2 weeks before this Watch What Happens Live,
Wow.
and that Garcelle was upset at the reunion.
So she had some insider knowledge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And it makes you think this wasn't like a spur-of-the-moment decision.
Right.
This was something Garcelle had been thinking about for a while.
Okay.
Now that 2-week gap, right?
Yeah.
Who else knew? What were they talking about behind the scenes?
Right.
How did those private conversations
Yeah.
shape what we saw play out publicly?
Oh, that's a good question.
And then Andy throws in another little twist.
Oh, what's that?
He says he wasn't entirely sure if Garcelle had actually quit when she left the reunion set.
Interesting.
So was she just making a dramatic exit in the moment? Or was that the beginning of her leaving?
Yeah.
And even Andy wasn't totally sure.
Wow, so much ambiguity.
Right, and that's what makes these reunions so compelling. They bring all this unresolved conflict to the surface, and then you get these big emotional outbursts and dramatic moments.
Yeah, it's like the bread and butter of the genre.
Exactly.
I mean, you got to have that reunion drama.
And then Erica points out that Garcelle didn't participate in the traditional cast photo at the end of the reunion.
Right.
And she takes that as a sign that she's leaving.
I mean, it makes sense. The cast photo, it's like this visual representation of the group and who's in and who's out.
Right. So if you're not in the photo,
Right.
it's like you're saying, I'm not part of this anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, you're breaking away from the group.
But Andy, being the veteran host that he is,
Right.
he's quick to point out that Kyle Richards didn't take the cast photo
Oh, yeah.
after her reunion last year, and she's still on the show.
Right, right.
So, these traditions,
Yeah.
they might seem like obvious signs, but they don't always tell the whole story.
Right. It's true. Sometimes people have other reasons
Right.
for doing what they do.
Yeah.
So we've got Bozoma's disappointment,
Yeah.
Erica's insider knowledge,
Right.
the missing photo,
Right.
and then Annie's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
It's not always so simple.
Yeah.
It's like there's so much going on here, both on screen and off.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about what might have pushed Garcelle to leave.
Okay.
The preview for the season 14 reunion,
Right.
it hinted at some seriously intense conflicts
Oh.
that involved her.
Yeah.
And I mean, this wasn't just like regular Housewives drama.
Okay.
She was at the center
Yeah.
of some major confrontations.
Oh, wow.
So one of the big things that comes up is Dort Kemsley
Okay.
confronting Garcelle about comments that she made regarding Dorot's home break-in. And the implication was
Yeah.
that Garcelle had suggested that Dorot's husband, PK,
Okay.
was somehow involved.
Wow.
I mean, that's a big accusation.
Oh, yeah. Even if it's just implied,
Right.
that could be really damaging.
Absolutely.
And it's bound to cause some serious conflict. I mean, that's the kind of thing that becomes a central storyline.
Right.
You know, it drives wedges between people.
Oh, for sure. To suggest that someone's husband
Right.
was involved in something as personal and violating as a home break-in,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge escalation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the fact that it's a focal point of the reunion
Right.
tells you that this was simmering all season long.
Exactly.
And then just blew up at the taping.
Gotcha.
So on top of that,
Okay.
the preview showed this really heated exchange
Yeah.
between Garcelle and Kyle Richards.
Interesting.
And it seemed to stem from Garcelle's feeling
Yeah.
that Sutton Strack
Okay.
was seeking validation from her. And it might seem like a smaller issue,
Yeah.
but these questions of authenticity and motive,
Right.
they're at the heart of so many Real Housewives conflicts.
Oh, yeah. They totally drive who's aligned with who,
Exactly.
who's against who.
And it's so interesting how these seemingly small dynamics, like who's seeking validation from whom,
Right.
can turn into these huge blowouts.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
It's like it speaks to the pressure these women are under to be seen as genuine
Right.
and to have the right motives.
Absolutely.
And they're constantly being watched,
Yeah.
both by each other and by the audience.
Yeah.
So every little interaction gets analyzed
Yeah.
and interpreted.
And that can lead to some big misunderstandings and hurt feelings.
For sure.
Yeah, they're always walking on eggshells trying
Yeah.
to manage their image and their relationships.
And it's got to be exhausting,
Oh, absolutely.
especially with the added pressure of filming a TV show.
Right. You add those cameras in
Yeah.
and the desire to make good TV,
Yeah.
and it just amplifies everything.
And I think we see that pressure really getting to Garcelle.
Where do you see that?
In the preview,
Okay.
there's this moment where she just says,
Yeah.
I don't want to answer any more questions. Like she's completely overwhelmed and
Yeah.
done with the whole thing.
She's hit her limit.
Yeah. It seems like she reached a breaking point
Uh-huh.
where she just couldn't engage anymore.
Right.
And then it all culminates in this very dramatic exit
Yeah.
where she's walking off the set
Uh-huh.
and she says, everybody can go off themselves.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Oh, wow.
I mean, she does not hold back.
Nope.
And to have that kind of raw emotion
Right.
in such a controlled environment,
Yeah,
it really shows you the pressure they're under.
for sure.
It's like a glimpse of the real person
Uh-huh.
breaking through this TV facade.
Yeah, and after a statement like that,
Right.
there's not a lot of room for interpretation.
No, not really.
She's clearly frustrated
Yeah.
and wants to get out of that situation and ultimately out of the show.
So when you think about Bozoma saying she wishes Garcelle had stayed to work things out, you got to consider how intense these conflicts were
Yeah.
and how Garcelle was clearly at her breaking point.
Right.
Like, maybe there was just no coming back from that.
Yeah, Bozoma perspective is understandable.
Huh.
She wants everyone to get along
Yeah.
and for things to be resolved.
Right.
But then you have Erica, who knew what was going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And those explosive arguments from the reunion preview.
Uh-huh.
And it paints a different picture.
Okay.
It seems like those specific confrontations, particularly with Dorit and Kyle,
Yeah.
were major factors in Garcelle's decision.
It makes sense.
This wasn't just her casually saying goodbye.
Right.
She was pushed to her limit
Right.
and chose to walk away.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what's going to happen to the show now.
Right.
I mean, Garcelle brought a lot to the group. Her leaving is going to change the whole dynamic.
Oh, yeah.
New alliances will form.
Right.
Old tensions might resurface.
Well, It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen in these
Right.
reality shows. So we have Garcelle leaving,
Right.
and everyone reacting in their own way, and this explosive reunion preview.
Yeah.
It all just reminds us how intense and real these emotions are,
Absolutely.
and that the drama we see on screen
Yeah.
can have a big impact on people's lives.
It's a good reminder.
It really makes you think
Yeah.
about what's authentic and
Yeah.
the pressures these people face.
For sure.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Of course, this was a juicy one.
Always is.